The MTG podcast is a virtual space for women and minorities in the tech and creative industries.
Tune in as we explore inspirational,
educational,
and community insights
through different perspectives, expanding the diverse cultures and societies that reflect us.
We're more than a designer.
We're more than our name badge.
We're more than the work we produce. Welcome to the More Than Graphics podcast.
We're that tribe.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another glorious episode of the More Than Graphics podcast. MTG, which y'all didn't know, is a multi-award nominated podcast, and we're ranked by Listen Score as a top 10%. Listen Notes as a top 10% podcast from more than almost 3 million podcasts registered globally in the world. So it feels good to be back in this online space. How you feeling, Priscilla?
This side's great.
Yeah, we'll get into that more in just a minute. I love it. Welcome. So if you don't already know, I'm Danielle. I'm a techie. I'm a serial entrepreneur.
And I am Priscilla. I am not as techie, but I am also a serial entrepreneur.
Yes. And super creative. Let's not leave out that part. Creative is where we're headed. I absolutely love that. Cecily will be joining us here in just a few minutes, but I love that it's been so long, but it feels so good to reunite, right? Like, where's the little family reunion?
Oh, I've got to put a cardigan on now, I feel like, right?
Well, not always twinning, but I love the fact that we have this cool tribe that makes up MTG. And so if you've been listening, whether you've been listening from the very beginning or you're just now starting to figure out who are these brown girls? We don't even know them. I'm super excited. Welcome to the safe space for women and minorities in the tech and creative industries. So it's officially fall in the States. And autumn brings all the feels, right? So this is the perfect season to recognize and celebrate our own inner abundance, right? So I kind of want to ask you, Priscilla, what's your favorite thing about fall?
The memories of the fall smells.
Ooh, I love it. Okay, what's your fall smell?
I don't always get, I don't have all the pumpkin spice like you do, but I have the memories of.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, I like the warmth because it's a different warmth than we get from summer and autumn. It's a cozy warmth.
Yeah.
Unlike the perimenopausal warmth of the
Here we go. I love it.
This is the kind of warmth that I welcome. This is the welcomed warmth.
I love that. Quote, t-shirt, welcomed warmth. There we go. I love it. We're going to keep this going all day. I love it. So I have some of my favorite things about fall, as you may know, I am the extra fall girl. I'm the person that's on fire in the season of autumn. Okay. So I got my Halloween going. I've got all the fall things. I love my pumpkin spice. I love my apple crisp. I love all the things. So I am in total sweater feels right now because I do have a cardigan that I just put on because it got cold today. So I'm just okay, Kentucky weather. What's
your temp today?
The temp today, I think, let me look it up. But it's not as warm as it was last week. Last week it was super still summer feels. Currently today it is only 78 is the high, but it's 75 right now and it's raining. So it's got this cool fall feel, you could open the windows and feel the cool sensations. But if you all have a favorite thing about fall, let us know in the comments because we are totally listening and watching and all the things. So I want to make sure that you guys are participating because we have some moments where you can add your 2 cents, throw in your 2 lines, all the things in the comments. So whether you're listening from YouTube, from LinkedIn, from Facebook, we are here to support, elevate, encourage, support you from within. So feel our fire, match our fire with all the cool things in and around fall. All right. Are we kind of topics of the season is kind of where I'm headed now. We've got a lot of things happening in and around the world. Everything from politics to some of these amazing pinnacles in our community. For me, as a creative, as a person who looks up to a lot of amazing voiceover artists, Stefan Johnson, come talk to me. But people like James Earl Jones, who just recently passed, recently died. That was a really big one for me. I think we watched Coming to America just recently, to kind of like help put into perspective, like what a loss that was for our community.
Yeah.
He lived a very long life. I think he was like, what, 93? He was like up there.
Didn't look it.
It was, I mean, he's been an iconic voice for a lot of people of color, but also just in general, like the voice of freedom. When you listen to all of the Animal Planets and all of the like documentaries out there about space and species and plants, it's his voice that you're trying to imagine, or it's his voice that's playing in your mind to like narrate those moments.
Makes me feel smarter. You know, when I listen to him, makes me, him and Morgan Freeman, you know, it just, I feel like smarter. It doesn't matter what they say. I'm just like, it just sounds. It's like people with accents, right? People with accents, they automatically sound like they're so intelligent. Intelligent. I don't even hear what they're saying. I'm just like, wow, yeah, you know. If there should be more, you know.
Right? Yes. Doo-doo-doo, like the star.
I love that observation, Priscilla.
Hi, Cicely. Oh, I missed you.
I miss you too.
We're so glad that you're with us. We're talking about random things in the season right now. Topics of the season. We brought out some politics. There's a lot of spicy things going on, but we're focusing first on James Earl Jones' recent passing. So, like I said, I mentioned watching Coming to America and watching King Joffrey and the petals and the roses that you walk on, like just all of those memories. Him in The Sandlot, right, being the blind old neighbor, like that was like iconic for me as a kid. I was scared of dogs after watching that.
Right, and then I think Cujo came out around that same time or a few years before.
Right.
So, big dogs were out.
Yes, somehow Pet Cemetery like was okay. I don't know why that. I don't know how that worked out.
But the dogs, no thanks.
Right? Yeah, that's definitely what I could not do for sure. But yeah, just remembering how iconic his voice was, knowing the presence that he carried, just in general, like just offering that up as such a creative idol, right? For a lot of people when they think about voice acting, when they think about actors in general, actors of color specifically, upholding fine acting, upholding theatrical acting, as a person of color, that's one of the top people, right? Top dogs. Absolutely. So shout out to you, James Earl Jones, all the things. Ashay, where's my glass deck on it? So we can do all the things. But we can talk some more. We got, like I said, we've got politics going on. Everybody's in a much different place when it comes to, voicing things. There's just, it's so hairy, like hearing how people quietly pick a side. I guess quiet voicing. Can we say that? I can't remember the term people were using of quiet quitting.
Yes.
Like that was
quiet choosing, I guess.
Right. I mean, I think quiet picking. Yeah. # quiet picking. Because I feel like that is definitely something that's happening right now. People are very, very quiet in my circles about certain things, very loud and vocal about, other things. It's atypical within any political arena, whether it's the Palestinian government, specifically, hosting their elections, or here in America, right? Or the, UK hosting their prime minister elections, anything along those lines. You're going to run up against these people or groups of people who are saying the quiet part out loud.
Right.
Which I feel like we are experiencing a lot right now. But yeah, thoughts on that, y'all?
No, I'm very quiet. I'm very quiet.
I know. I'm trying anyway. I'm loud, so I'm definitely my yard sign is not in my yard yet, but it will be after Halloween. So it's just kind of like, no matter where you are, you're in safe spaces and safe places. But I also think it's encouraging to continue these conversations. That's what the whole purpose for me behind politics. I am not a heavy political person. Don't come at me with all the facts and all the things. Don't fact check me because it won't. But it's just one of those situations where it's so important to continue to at least have the conversation. So whether it's uncomfortable in some areas, sure, but that's part of growth. That's how we grow, right? Through the uncomfortableness. All right, my last topic of the season, P. Diddy and trial. Come on now. Baby lotion. Come on. Baby oil.
You know, I haven't. The only way that I'm following this is if I'm scrolling through and I see the things. And I saw something about Usher earlier today. And he was like 13. And then they talked about, you know, and I think there was something, who is it? 50 Cent had a couple of, you know, like, and these are these things like people are saying from the, back, you know, a couple years ago kind of things that they said. And I'm like, you know.
Yeah. There was a news thing going on Usher today about how he deleted 7,000 Twitter responses and conversations with Diddy.
Wow.
In and around Diddy. 7,000. And people were noticing very quickly how no paper trails.
I would have just left it up at that point. They can still find it, and it looks crazy now. Like at that point, just leave it up.
Yeah, right. 7,000, exactly.
Like, maybe 70, sure, but 7,000, stop. Cut it out.
Who's there going?
Right. Who is his publicist?
Can you do global? I don't know if you can do global.
Yeah. You're right. It's both of you are right, but I completely agree. Like Cicely, it is. Who is your publicist? Who is encouraging you to do this at this point?
The wrong one is who it is. But they said Diddy's publicist actually quit, and she had been his longtime publicist, but she quietly quit.
There we go. Quiet quitting.
She's just that one mom. I can't handle this.
Right.
Don't even talk to me today.
Above my pay grade.
Ain't enough money. There ain't enough money.
Not in this world, not in this life.
Tanya and I always talk about this. Do you remember in, was it Yaya's Sisterhood, where the Ashley Judd plays in One Mom, and she goes to the hotel because she just can't. That's what this gal is. She's like, she checked out. I have to go to the hotel and be out of this.
I love it. I love it, y'all. We're on it. I love it. Okay, so knowing all these topics of the season, we can kind of go into this I think a little bit more safer or wholesome realm in regards to embracing the harvest of self-worth. Actually have a graphic for this. Let me actually click on the right one. Woot! Embracing the harvest of self-worth. All right. So this is all about how do you, and these are great questions for us to answer collectively, but I would love to hear opinions in the comments as well. How do you recognize and celebrate our accomplishments, big and small? Because we talk about this harvest of self-worth, we're really focusing on, you know, reaping in, right? Taking in this element of self-worth. Speaking of self-worth, I'm so glad we mentioned that, because our self-worth worthy guest for MTG was none other than Dana James, which was amazing. We loved having her on the podcast. If you haven't listened to that podcast episode, go do it, mtgthepodcast.com. But revolving back to the topic here, how do we recognize and celebrate our accomplishments, big and small? Me personally, I recognize accomplishments big and small by keeping record of it. Like, I feel like I have to keep a little bit of a journal, a jar, a win jar, or a win journal. I keep one digitally. I call it my brag book. So like, nice. If I got through laundry, which is a miracle within itself. If I get through laundry all in one day, that is a win for me, right? When we were little, I'm like, well, not when I was little, but when my kids were little, I would actually remember when my oldest could get through the day without going to in a timeout chair or had to pull a ticket or something along those lines. That was a win for me. Just recently being recognized as a digital woman to watch in 2024, all the way in London, UK. Hey, y'all. That was a cool win for me, and I got to journal about that too. So those are ways that I celebrate accomplishments, big and small. Sometimes I'll throw in a piece of chocolate or ice cream.
Sometimes. Amen. That should be not a sometimes. That should be
Every
all the
time.
Most times.
What y'all?
I don't have time to write down a piece of paper, but I can grab chocolate. Hopefully, you got a bag of kisses. You got a bag of kisses. Give yourself a kiss every time you do something good, right?
Yes.
Smart idea. I like it.
Tell me, Cicely, I want to hear what you got to say, Mama.
I definitely do write it down, and I'm the crazy person that saves journals. I don't have every journal I've ever had in my life, but I think it's really fun that one day, hopefully, maybe not, depends, I gotta read through them again, that maybe my kids will be able to read them, and just kind of, it's very interesting to see the person I was at the time these things were happening. So most of the things that like I have documented, the important things in my life, they were written down. I've had a journal since I was like 8, but I've only kept the ones since like my 20s, I think. And again, not every single one, but every once in a while I'll find like something like a little, I used to have like a little pocket notebook when I lived in New York City. I'd write stuff down when I was on the subway, and just the person I was then, she's completely different. Like, who is that girl? In a good way. Like, I have evolved and grown so much. But even then, like, my number one way to celebrate was to write things down, because I'm like, I want to remember this moment forever, or I want to capture how I felt in that moment so that I can relive that later. Like, I always remember that XYZ thing happened, but I don't always remember how I felt in that moment. So writing it down helps me remember. Like, more, I guess, like, gratifying, I do something like, some ice cream, or go out to eat, or just go celebrate doing something that I like to do. Buying leggings is I'm fine now. I love leggings, like athletic leggings, stretchy, nice, smooth feeling leggings. That's kind of my thing. So anything that just makes me feel comfortable, that makes me feel good, that's what I enjoy to do. Enjoy doing to celebrate something, an accomplishment.
Oh, that's nice.
I love that.
You guys in your handwriting.
It's the journalism, and I was like,
you two and your two working hands.
Right.
Hold on, Cicely.
What happened to your little wrist? What's going on?
Oh no! Remember, I had rotator cuff surgery and bicep.
Yes.
So,
and how long ago was your surgery?
Oh, it was in August.
Okay. I mean, so it's still fairly new.
Yeah. They said like a year and a half for recovery, full strength back.
God.
But
wow.
Yeah, for me, and it's, the way they used to celebrate was different, right? I did that for like a lot of 1,000+ days, not years, days. And what's nice is like, I used to do like you guys did. I used to like write, in the morning, like I would wake up and I would write down like the gratitude type of things that I was thankful for and grateful for. And what I do now is I was just thinking about this being fall and how it's kind of like sit back and think of the smells and stuff. But for me, it's going back through. Like I don't really do the journaling thing anymore. But I will go through like the Facebook memories, and I'll see that stuff. For me, it's a lot more. Sometimes, like today, when I was watching some of the, like what I think I sent you guys Jay Shetty, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm listening to these little bits of things that people are saying, and I'm realizing, oh, you know what? Yeah, I do that. That type of thing. When I can see maybe either a behavior, a thought, or something that somebody that I really think is like wise, and then like they'll say, and I'll go, oh, hey, I'm ahead of schedule, right on schedule, or whatever. I mean, it's just it's more like I don't know, feeling that's what I do. I mean, I'd love to be able to go back, and I like the idea of going back and marking the things down, which I always have my phone with me, so I could start doing that again. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's a little different with how I'm documenting things now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like it's such a huge shift, right, in mindset. And Priscilla, you definitely have you have so much more experience too. You walk into the space with so much more experience than just being in the moment, in the decade. You're looking at this from a so much more aerial perspective, and so I feel like that's so much wisdom that we can learn from you in this way. To not always be, you know what I mean? Like it's just different perspectives. And I love that. And I would love to be able to get to a point where I can look back at things. Well, I look back at things 20 years ago, from, that mindset to being where I am now. 20 years ago, I was telling myself if I had kids, I was going to pull out all of my hair. Like my life was going to quote unquote be over, things along those lines. And because I grew up in a very large tribal family, like huge, dad's one of 13, mom's one of 9. I've seen the progression of these lines and these lineages. Even then, I was like, that's not for me. I don't want to do that. And now here I am 20 years later, continuing that same lineage, continuing that same path. And there's a different viewpoint, and how we honor ourselves walking into this space, which kind of goes right back into this area of self-worth and the harvest that we want to build for ourselves. How do we overcome imposter syndrome and recognize our inherent worthiness?
Yeah. Well, I know. Sorry. For me, it's, and I think I've said this to you guys before, is I will go back to, I would go back to times in which I knew that I was really strong. Like I go to look into myself, like literally, I think I've told you guys that very first interview I did with you guys as a guest. So many times I've gone back and I've listened to it because I'm like, I need to kick myself literally I'm kicking myself in the keister and saying, and I listen to it and I go, oh boy, I'd like to be, oh wait, that is me. I'd like to be, or I go back and I'll read things in which when I myself, rather than, and that's kind of like, it's easy to go to talk to your friends, or like, I'll go to you guys and I'll say, hey, I'm feeling la, but that does help. But really, if I can go back to a time in which I was in that space, then that's like, okay, there is evidence that I actually was there before, evidence that I got through whatever it is the trouble is. Because you can always find somebody else to give that to you. But it's like that validation or that self-worth, it's got to come from you. And what better way to come from you than if you actually hear it in your voice, or you read it in your voice, like you guys are saying, with like you're reading back on the journaling. That's your voice. That's you. You're not really necessarily going to lie to yourself at that point. I mean, you might lie to yourself in the moment, but when you go back and you see, okay, that right there to me is what I've learned about the imposter syndrome. I mean, I'll go and try to find, somewhere, something online or something to match up, going, okay, oh yeah, well, what I'm feeling isn't real, or it's not true, but really it's when I remember, or I force myself to have those conversations with myself, or my old self, when I get in the DeLorean.
Hey, I need a DeLorean for real. Like, come on. All day, every day. Richard Heller reminds me of something else entirely. But Cicely, your thoughts your thoughts on imposter syndrome, recognizing your worthiness.
Yes, I can't with both of you, by the way. But Priscilla mentioned some things that really made a lot of sense to me. And one of the things I think we always kind of ask this question, or we're always trying to find the answer to it. I really don't have a really good answer other than to just do it. Like Nike, like literally just do it. There's days that this still happens to me, like working at the hospital. So I'm off of orientation now. I've been in labor and delivery like as an RN since January. So like you should think that I should be at a certain point. But I took maternity leave for about 3.5 months. So there was some time off there. But there are still things that like I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have a little bit of internal panic about doing, or like I know how to do them, but I've never like how to do them in, XYZ way, or I haven't done it in so long that I'm afraid. But I just force myself to do it. Or like when we sometimes they'll be like, hey, who wants to do this, or who wants to do this, I'll just try to volunteer as tribute just so I can get it out of the way, because I'm like, if I don't do it, I'm gonna keep hiding from it. Like if I don't force myself to do it, or if you don't get voluntold sometimes to do things, then you can always be like, okay, no. Like it used to be for me, for example, starting IVs, I was really good at them. Then I moved away from like working in the hospital setting or clinic setting for a while. So then like they got really bad. Like I was just not as accurate. And then I stopped thinking about it. I got out of my head and I was like, look, you've done this before. You know how to do this. Just calm down. And then now I've not missed an IV stick since I've been back from maternity leave. And like before I was like all over the place, and I was like, oh my gosh, like just freaking out about it. And it's because I was just thinking about it too much. And I think we get in our own way by thinking too much. So if you just do it, like if, you know, there's an emergency that comes in when I work tonight, and if I'm the person who's going to handle it, I'm going to be freaking out internally, but I'm just going to do it because I have to do it. Like, I have to help this patient. I have to, you know what I'm doing, and it's going to freak me out, but I'll just do it. And that's kind of what we have to do. We just have to know that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to not know 100% of all the things we need to know, because when do you ever know 100% of anything? Like, we always have room to learn, but just push through that fear. And at the other end of it, every time, especially like with new jobs or new skills, every time for me, I felt so much better. And then I feel more equipped to handle the next challenge. So because I didn't back down from that challenge, the next one it gets easier and easier to do it. And then eventually you convince yourself that you really are an expert and you do know what you're doing. And then you become one. So it works out for everybody.
I love this. And I really, and like, fingers crossed, all the things, I'm crossing my toes, my fingers, all things. That's truly how it happens, right? As we become quote unquote experts in the world, right? I feel like experts is such a term. It's like, often slayed around quite a bit, but really it just means seasoned, in my opinion. Like, I have lived through things. I've been forged by fire in areas. And it just is a testament, right, to what we bring to spaces, regardless of our age, our demographic. We come inherently with this level of worth, right? So I love this. Oh my goodness. Okay, that was only the first question. Y'all stop it. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Don't tap me out with all this deep thought,
Y'all for real on it today. All right. So topic 2 is all about shedding the old and embracing the new. We're talking about that self-care edition, right? So the importance of self-care during transitions like fall creates spaces for new beginnings. What are your self-care practices that support mental and emotional well-being during fall? I can tell you right now, my number one thing that I do, and I do it year round, but I love it more because it's fall, it's grounding. I do a lot of feet grounding in the earth during fall. I am so very attracted to the rhythm, the magnesium of the earth, like all the core elements that come around just being rooted and grounded in nature. And that's really been helpful to me to clear my head. If I'm stressed, if I'm worried, I do a lot of, prayer and meditation, but grounding myself outside has been so rejuvenating personally for me. It makes all the little headaches that I may or may not experience throughout my workday go away. But it also kind of reminds me again, like, I am more than graphics, right? I am more than the sum of my parts.
Grounding. That's a good one. That's a good one. I purge. I purge
stuff, right?
Stuff. Yeah, I purge stuff.
Oh Lord.
Sorry, I had to for real. Like, wait.
Thank you for the clarification on that. No, yeah, like I think that was kind of like one of the things I always think about. All the times in which I've moved, right? Every single time that there's a move, I get excited because that's when I can just freely dump shit out and I don't care. And I'm like, nope, don't need it. And I don't think about it. And then you're able to go into a new space with the less, that some of that baggage you take away. And like, for instance, today, like, I had my little sewing thing. I had to fix something. My son wanted to bring, he has this, what is it? A sloth sleep mask, and it was all janked up. So I had to sew it, but I had all these, like, all my little spindles and stuff like that. They were all twisted all over the place. So I was just like, I guess I got to go organize this right now. And so I was just not purging. Like, I was cutting, I had all these, thread just knotted all over the place. And I was like, just cut, just to clean it out. And it just like felt like I felt good. Just even doing that little thing, because then it allows me to get to what I need to do. So it's kind of like a lot of the things, it's like for me, I'll put aside things and I'll get to it later. But, and then you go back to it later and it's like, you see, well, that's a big old mess. I don't even want to go through with that. And I think I'm kind of in that existential thing right now, kind of shedding. I shed some fusion back here. I shed a little bit of scraping in here and a little bit of here. And, it's like you have to get rid of some of that stuff, to make room for, you got to shed all the stuff that's just kind of holding back in order to make room for the new stuff. And it's kind of scary, I think. But yeah, I enjoy doing a purge just to reevaluate what is important and what is not, and what's just taking up space.
I love that. This kind of purge, not the other kind. This kind. I think that's so important. Like that you mentioned. Like not only are you shedding the things, the stuff. Like it also helps you mentally. Like I know we've all seen like the TLC, the Hoarder show. One of the big things there is like, I mean, no, I'm not saying that you're a hoarder. I promise. I'm not blaming.
No, I know.
One of the things with that is there's a lot of like emotional baggage attached to the actual baggage as well. So once they get that like mental help, once they get that therapy and get that part of it going or figure out what the underlying cause is, then they can get rid of the things. Then they realize like, oh, this is an attachment I have to these items because in my mind, things are cluttered and in my mind, things are not going well. So I think that's one of the things too, like, in the fall, I'm with you. Like every time I move, I get excited only for the reason I get to throw shit away. I'm like, yes, how many black bags of things can we get rid of? And like, how many things can I give away? How many things can be recycled? Like I get really excited about it and probably unnecessarily so, but it's fun to me. Like I love getting rid of crap whenever I move. And then I've never moved into a house with more than what I left with, if that makes sense. So like I never move into a house and keep everything. Like half of the things usually go, which is also a testament to how the hell do we accumulate so much stuff in the first place? Like if we're doing this much of a purge and a cleanse every time we move, how in the hell are we accumulating more stuff? Doesn't make sense. And kind of it's a combination of both of what you both like to do. For me, for fall, it's like the best weather in Kentucky. So I love to get outside. I love it when we have those 70-degree brisk days. There's a little bit of wind. You get to, go out and see the leaves. I hate that fall has become rainy here the last few years. That part is very annoying. Like, excuse me, save that for the spring. Ain't nobody got time for that. I just want my nice breezy fall weather. But I love fall to just get out and walk, and it just makes me feel better. Like grounding, I prefer to do in the summer just because I love like warm grass under my toes. But for fall, I love like that brisk fall wind hitting you in the mornings, or like going on an afternoon walk, taking the babies out to go for a walk. Because this summer was unnecessarily hot. So me and the babies didn't get to get out very much, unfortunately. And I was very much looking forward to it. All that free time I had. And then we only got to go on a few walks and we had to wait till the end of the night or to end of the day because it was so hot outside. So I'm looking forward to fall walks with the kids and just enjoying, hopefully the real fall that we may or may not get, depending on how Kentucky feels about it.
We know she kind of, how fall is. She kind of on the edge a little bit. like she came with the wig, but then she didn't put it on. Like,
I can't. I know. It's like, are you here or not here? She don't know. She really don't know.
Right. She don't know.
No, she has no idea.
Oh man. I love everything that you guys are talking about specifically in and around fall. I think it's so it's personally cultivating because I know that we're not the only ones, right? And that's the whole purpose of the space, is to continue to be a community that connects, absorbs, and learns new things with and amongst each other. So we collectively move together. We're a real tribe. That's kind of cool. Okay, so cultivating gratitude and abundance. Fall is a season of abundance and gratitude. What strategies are we using to cultivate a mindset of gratitude and recognizing the abundance in our lives? I know, right? Like I really was deep thought. I can go first. It's totally cool. I have, for me, again, abundance and gratitude comes in many different shapes and forms. Sometimes it's cooking certain types of foods during the year because I know that it cultivates memories, it stimulates conversation, it just kind of creates a special space and place for my family and myself. But strategies that I use, like I definitely use cooking as a way to do that. I try to do activities. It's also my eldest son's birthday. He ages out at 18, quote unquote, ages out, we know that's not true, but he becomes a legal adult, right? At this kind of space and place and time. So I'm cultivating constantly things that I can do to throw in at the last minute, kind of, hey, let's do this. It's your last adolescent years. Let's throw in a couple dashes of this, and let's go check out this place, and let's hold on to some of these memories that we were able to build way back when. Things along those lines are things that I'm kind of doing as a parent, as a creative, especially as a parent of a special needs child, someone who's on the spectrum. It's really important. A lot of times, all those early feelings and memories are things they have long gone forgot about or put away, or just don't even address anymore. But to kind of revisit that, especially on the 18th birthday or closer to those young adult years where they're transitioning. Those are things that I'm constantly cultivating, levels of gratitude through raising my kids, but also levels of gratitude of the growth mindset where we've both come from. Being a younger single mom, I had my oldest at 21, having to grow up myself, but also grow other tiny humans, was definitely a challenge within itself. But these are things that I am cultivating for myself now in fall, constantly coming back to this levels of look at the growth that we've been able to do. Anybody else?
That's so hard to follow up. But I just can't believe, first of all, the testament to like the way that kids age is just ridiculous. So like, I know that, when we started the podcast, I felt like we were so far away from Miles being 18 and like Liam being in high school. Like these things were so far away. Zoe is in middle school now, right? Like we were so far away from these things. And then hell, like now we look up and here we are. You have a senior, a 6th grader, I have a 9th grader, like of the older kids. And I'm like, this is just, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't understand how we got from that point, from newborn to here. Like, really don't.
We blinked.
Literally, that's all we did. I'm like, someone should have told me. I wouldn't have blinked. I would have kept my eyes open for 15 years.
Mhm.
Blinked. But one of the things, just being grateful, for me, I think especially when you have kids, you're able to be grateful for a lot more because they help you see things that you may have forgotten, or, we get stressed out, we work, we have bills and responsibilities. And a lot of times those things cloud over the things that made us happy as kids, or things that make us happy as people, because we can't just, live off of fumes and rainbows and, poetry and drawings and wonderful things. That we have to live in reality, which sometimes is not always pleasant. But I think one of the things that keeps me grateful and keeps me grounded is just thinking about my kids and seeing the world through their eyes, and like just seeing things new again. Or, like when baby laughter, that you could bottle that stuff up and sell it. Like that to me is enough.
Yes.
That's my entire like life. Like you don't have to do anything else. Just smile and laugh at me as a baby and we're done here. So just those things continue to make me grateful. Like I'm always thankful for having healthy kids. Even when they're sick, I'm still just like, you know what? They haven't been sick until this point. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that they're not in the hospital and that we can just handle this at home. So I try to find like those happy and grateful moments in pretty much everything that I do. And very much like you were saying, Danielle, with abundance, I just try to look at abundance as what do I already have? Like not what I lack. Because when we think about the things that we lack, then it doesn't make us very happy. But thinking about, wow, I've got 3 amazing birth children now. It's still weird to say that I have 3 kids. Very strange. But, I have a job that I love. I have people that I love to work with. I have a loving relationship with my husband. I have a great family. So those are things that kind of keep me grounded, that keep me grateful, and then keep me thinking about abundance. Like it's easy to think about the stuff we don't have and the stuff that we lack and that we want to have. But literally, sometimes you can just look at your kids or look around where you're sitting right now and just see the things, see the fruits of your labor, and see kind of what you have and be grateful for that.
Wow, you guys. Yeah. No, I think, for, the gratitude, I love, thinking about with, our children. And it's so funny though, because when I hear you guys talk about your kids, and I'm like here going, okay, my oldest is just in 6th grade and my youngest is just in 3rd grade. I'm like, yeah, but it's I think, Danielle, you're talking about being the younger parent, and I'm always talking about being the older parent. And, as far as like the gratitude and abundance, I feel as if me being that older parent, I am able to, because I've kind of gotten to that point already where I'm at the gratitude and abundance, and I recognize that. That's when I always say where I'm able to pass that stuff off to my kids, because, I always say, like, if I'm a much patient, in air quotes, much more patient parent as an adult. I mean, as an adult, being an older parent than had I had them earlier. And so I think that in that case, I feel very, a lot of gratefulness and abundance that's wisdoms that I can offer to my kids, so they have them early on. Like, and I wish, Cicely, too, about that. I'm jealous of you being able to smell and, hear the sounds, because, I'm doing in this reflective thing too, right? That I go through Facebook. Thank you for always reminding me, all of the things. And I go through, I go through, and I just, like, I think the other day I was like scrolling through, and I'm trying to remember that type of stuff. And it's like, there's been so much of an abundance of things also that, I talk about things that abundance of not very positive things, and is the stuff that makes me feel the gratitude stronger. When I think about, I go through and think about the trials and all that stuff that we've had in the past. And actually, like, so Spooner's in the UK right now, and for work. And it's been just the three of us, me and the minis, here just since Sunday. And it's really easy for me to, it's been a while since it's just been the three of us, and Sam's with his mom this week. And so it's different. It's a different feeling being in a space with the two of them, when it was always the three of us, and we were in a different space. They were a lot younger. Things were a lot more whatever. And now I'm just kind of sitting here, and I have a little bit of more quiet time that I can think about and remember, that stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's a wild feeling, actually, that I'm having these past couple of days. It's, a little bit of empty nest, somewhat, but not really. But I always try to talk to my kids a lot. We talk about what we're grateful for and stuff. And Max, he'll do that at nighttime sometimes to stalling technique. He'll bring back things where he's like, what are you grateful for today? Or what was the best thing that happened today, type of thing. And I like thinking about that, knowing that I was able to give that, that kind of thing to them as an older parent. And so that makes me feel a big abundance of, that overabundance that we have of love that we have for our kids, and, how we will do whatever it takes. Right. And I mean, the gratitude to be able to do that is immense. Unmute.
That was me. Sorry. I was trying to catch up. I am so, I'm humbled every time that I hear this, because again, it just a different perspective, an aerial perspective, someone who has gone through a lot of different stages and places and can still come from this centered point of view. Like, I just treasure that so much. And it's actually like I'm trying not to tear up. Like, it just makes me feel so valued in this way that we're able to even have this on the podcast. Like, honestly, thank you for bringing this to us, because this is like something that I feel like more women in our spaces don't get to hear. They don't get to see from that perspective. So my follow-up question to that is, how does gratitude enhance your personal sense of worthiness?
You and the heavy hitters today, man.
Fall, man, it brings all the emotional feels. Fall feelings. # fall feelings.
Cicely, we're like, shit.
I know. I'm like, that's a lot.
Do a warning next time.
May cause intense emotion.
What? Go again?
Yeah, ask the question one more time. I'm like, I gotta wrap around this again.
Oh, sure. So the question was a follow-up, which is, how does gratitude enhance your sense of worthiness?
Okay, I think I have an answer for this
Do
one.
it.
Okay.
I think it's kind of what we talked about earlier, just kind of when you're able to reflect on the past and see the person you were, see the things that you wanted to accomplish, and like, the things that just the path you were on at that time. And then you look at where you are today. I think there's just so much to be learned from that. I'm grateful for where I am today. Like I always like my joke is kind of, I'm not exactly where I thought I would be, and I'm not where I in quote wanted to be at that time, but I'm exactly where I need to be and where I should be. So just looking back on just like kind of reflecting on what I thought I wanted to be, what I thought I wanted to do to now, like my life is completely different, like 180 black and white, like complete total opposite than anything I thought was ever going to happen. Let's say at like 21, like, you mentioned Danielle, you were like, I don't want all them kids. Like, and then Priscilla was like, I'm an older parent. And I'm like, you know what? I wanted to be an older parent. I thought I wouldn't probably have kids till I was like 39 or 40, was perfectly fine with that. Like was wanting to go in that direction, had a lot of plans that, that 18 to 21-year-old Cicely wanted to accomplish at the time. And like I mentioned, never thought I would be in the place that I am now, especially not with 3 kids, because that's still wild to me. So especially not where I am now, but I could not imagine my life any other way. So I'm constantly grateful that the decisions I made back then, the people I met back then, who some of them are still in my life and, still getting to be on this journey with me and all these kids, that they were a part of that journey and that I got to be who I am and where I am now. And it just makes me think that it makes me hopeful for the future as well, that like looking forward, that if, I'm blessed to live another 30, 40 years, that hopefully a little bit longer, that I'll get to see like, wow, 30 years ago, Cicely, this is what you were doing. And then here we are 10, 20, 30 years later, and here are the things that have come to pass, or here, all your kids are grown, they're extra grown, some of them. And then, you might be a grandparent at some point in that 10, 20, 30 year time frame. So it's just very interesting to see, like to look back and reflect on that and to just be grateful for where I am today. So like I said, it makes me realize that like some of the things I had to go through in the past led me to where I am today. But then I'm also like, I'm grateful for the present, but I'm also looking forward to the future and the things that it will bring too, the unexpected things that it will bring as well.
That's so wonderful. I love hearing that. And it gets me, I got excited when you're talking because I was thinking about how exciting for your babies,
I know.
right? And well, we think about this, right? They always say that we're a different parent with each child, right?
Yes, very much
And
so.
it's really wonderful, I think, especially at the space where you're at right now, in your life. And then think about what abundance and stuff you're bringing to those ones that I want to smell.
Oh my God, they smell so good. I can't stand this.
Can you bottle that up for me?
Well,
I was thinking about this. I was writing down here, like gratitude and worthiness and stuff, and I wanted to like talk about from a different kind of thing was, I've been very open with everybody about like my history of depression. And I think that helps out because like I know I go through a lot of times in which I do have that concern, all the time, or I'll think, gosh, am I worthy of this? Am I worthy of that? Or you start feeling down about it. But if I do take those moments where I start thinking of, like, even if you just find one thing that you can be thankful for, or like in my case, I've had 2 major surgeries since December, and I was going through that time. I've talked with Danielle. I'm like, what am I going to do? Especially as a designer, or I'm like, computer work may not be a full thing that I'll be able to, but how is it that I can shift? What am I thankful for? And I was saying, my biggest gift is my mind. It doesn't matter whether or not my body may or may not. I mean, especially it's like now I'm getting arthritis, like all that stuff. But it's not it's not when I have these 2 things that have happened, which has been a big setback. It's not like a life sentence or anything like that. I know it'll get better. It's frustrating a lot of times, but what am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I was able to get that stuff taken care of. I'm grateful that I have a partner who's been able to take care of me, and I have my friends, and I've also experienced all this other stuff. And then I also know that because of I know what my, when I start thinking of what is it that I can do, not what I'm not going to be able to do anymore, but what can I do now? And it's always, I think I'm always telling you, I'm always like shifting and trying to find a different thing to do. And, like Danielle and we've been working really close lately. And I think, where I'm going is it's hilariously where, years ago. And to know that now it's the time, you'll get to where you have to be. And it's like you'll end up where you have to be. You might end up taking a different route, and it doesn't matter. We've talked about this in the past. It doesn't matter how you get there, you just get there. And that's like, for me, I'm grateful again for things that have not happened the way that I've wanted to, because they end up working the way that they're supposed to. And have you guys seen this show what's it called? Imprisoned. It's on Hulu. It's got Kerry Washington in it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I love it.
You love it. I binged on it yesterday. And what was it? A quote. And I texted Tanya last night about it. And what was it? They said, let me find, I text too much throughout the night. No, it said, he said, you know what they say, it'll be all right in the end. Well, if it ain't right, then it ain't the end. And when I heard that, I was like, it's enough for me to text her, the quote, and to rewind it back a few times to make sure I got it right. But, and that's the truth. And I think it is when having that gratitude is attached to that, worthiness. But if you're feeling unworthy, it is hard to find gratitude. But I think you might sometimes need to look into that thing that's making you feel unworthy, and then you kind of just got to flip it a little bit. If you flip things enough on its side or different areas, you can find it can look right.
Right.
Just flip it a little weird.
I love that.
That's a great quote and a great show. Yes, I love that. I love that you even say that, because I do feel like, again, perspective is really where we keep coming back to over and over again when we talk about harvest and fall and autumn, like all these things that are rotating around, these feelings of transition, right? So when we pivot, we know that our feelings are going to have to pivot too, right? And I love that you mentioned that quote, because I feel like a lot of people feel like if I don't get it exactly like this, then it's not right. And it's so the farthest from the truth. Where you are is where you are. And just because you're not where you want to be doesn't mean that it's not a good place to be. I love that. That's so beautiful. Okay, so we're going to keep it moving. We've got one more topic after this. It is finding beauty in the imperfection, right? Just as fall leaves change color, we can embrace the beauty of imperfection in ourselves and in our journeys. So, what are some ways to let go of perfectionism and embrace our unique strengths and challenges? For me as a techie, I am so grounded a lot of times in that area of perfectionism, right? It has to be a certain way. It has to lure a certain way. Even down to me, as a business owner, and I'm working with a staff of people, I have a certain aesthetic or feel that I have in and around certain things. And if I don't feel it's like that, I won't post it. I won't put it out there in the world. Don't even ask, because I won't. So I'm kind of getting in this place now where I realize maybe my expectation needs to pivot so that I can still get that expectation of what I'm looking for, but it just needs to be done through someone else's eyes, right? And so I really, really struggle, sometimes with wanting things to look a certain way, and in the aspect of business, right? Like not personally necessarily. So I would love to have my bed made up every single day. That's my way of being an extra perfectionist. Sometimes I just don't get it. It's one of those situations where I'm constantly trying to find ways where I'm wanting to let go of perfectionism. Thank you. And for me, one of the ways that I kind of do that is to step back, right? Let things go. That is really hard for me to do, y'all. Like if you already know, as a mom of like multiple kids, if you are in a business, if you're doing multiple businesses, it is hard for you to take yourself out of the situation and just let things organically be. And I am no stranger to failure. And a lot of times I notice that things fail because I'm too much in the center of things. And so I have to, that's the part of the perfectionism that I'm trying to step away from personally, so that things can kind of organically find its way. So I do embrace my vision, but I also have to embrace that my vision, the way that I see my vision, is not the vision. It can't be. Otherwise, yeah, it just can't be. So those are some things that I do. Stepping back, taking a more aerial perspective.
That's funny, because I was talking to Zoe. She's in middle school now, and so she's like, so she's a creative type. And she was in her art class, and she is, she's kind of worried that she's not going to get it perfect. And I was told a long time ago, like, our version of perfect is like way above what, so you show somebody else that they're like, we just put too high of a standard of us. And
Yeah.
and I was always thinking of, I had this thing a long time ago that I went on social media. I was doing that I'm perfectly fashioned, where I took the word I'm perfect and you put the apostrophe in between the I and the M, and it's just like saying I'm perfect. Turn the, shift your perspective on the things. And
Yes.
and I think that's the key, is that at least where I've gotten to, is that I want to be a creative person, right? I want to pick creativity over perfection. Like, because I think, like, I didn't even tell Cicely this, but I'm going to be a youth sewing teacher. And we're going to do hand sewing. And I was excited about this because I was thinking, so I'm right now, my left hand is basically a paperweight. And I've been using a clipboards to, hold it. And as I'm sewing the stuff, I'm doing it hand sewing, and I'm realizing it's like, you look at something that's handmade, and it doesn't have the perfect lines, or it doesn't have the whatever, but there's such a beauty in it being like, it's like, that's not, for sure AI didn't touch this. And I really, and I used to always tell my kids, I'm like, I love, anything that's handmade is just so much more, there's so much, you can actually feel like the love in there and the thing. Great. I mean, wonderful to have something, that's perfect lines, perfect whatever, but there's something special about something that has imperfections in it. I mean, maybe that's why I love shopping at TJ Maxx and Marshalls and stuff, slightly imperfect, but then it makes it more real, because there is no such thing as anything being perfect. Even our perfect scenario is not perfect, and so I don't know. I feel like we should get rid of that word, and everything should just be imperfect, right?
I love it. I'm a perfectionism around imperfections. So like,
Yeah.
can we just flip the script, right? Like, I really love the fact that this is becoming more and more of a common thing, but it is also something that still continues to be a challenge for a lot of women, a lot of minorities, who are in these tech and creative spaces. Like, it's hard for us to kind of dismantle, to take apart. We're also programmed in a lot of areas, right? Like, we talk about, creatives, our minds are programmed or wired a certain way, and it's hard for us to unlearn. It's hard for us to rewire. And for a lot of us who are techies, we follow a protocol. And when a new protocol is introduced, it's harder for us to adapt, right? And transition into those new spaces or places or whatever that new protocol is. And so we give ourselves grace, but we also internally beat ourselves to hell up, right? We beat ourselves up because we're not getting it quick enough, or we're not doing the thing that everyone else is doing that we want to try to do, that kind of feel. And so we talk often about that comparison, and comparison is the thief of joy. We talk a lot about, those feelings in general, and we talk about finding beauty in the imperfection. It's just part of it. So I really value your words, Priscilla. Those are great. And I hope that other people are really listening to them and taking them in on this episode.
It was beautiful what both of you had to say. I'm on Team Priscilla with the imperfect, with the handmade whatevers. I'm definitely more on that side of things. I've never really worried about like being a perfectionist and doing everything perfect, because I'm just like, girl, I'm just most of the time flying by the seat of my pants. I'm just winging it anyways. So I always think I always just like to look at it in terms of like better. Like basically, like a very good example is, you know, your journey as a nurse, your journey in any sort of professional career. That like, are you better than the first day you started? Are you better than last month? Are you better than, you know, the last delivery that you did? And for me, I'm seeing growth with everything that I do and every shift that I go into work. And that to me is important. Is anything perfect about the things I be doing at work? No. Am I putting anyone's life in danger? Also no. But there are things I can get much better at. Charting, just things that I learned. Like we had like our annual competency class yesterday. So I learned some tips and tricks about like, you know, talking to people about loss, talking to people about, you know, or supporting people on their breastfeeding journey. So just some of the things I may not have had the words to kind of address or talk about before. The feelings were there, the empathy was there, but sometimes I just don't have the vocabulary for it. So I got some tools for that. So I feel better equipped today going into my shift than I did, you know, last week dealing with some of the same things. So for me, the bar is never set at being perfect or doing everything 100% correct and by the book. The bar is always set at, am I doing the best that I can? That's the first thing. And then am I doing better than I did yesterday? Like, am I doing better than the last time I did this thing? And if both of those answers are yes, then, you know, that's my version of not even perfect, but of, you know, doing well. But if I can honestly say like, okay, you know, you didn't try the hardest you could, you didn't do your best, and you also are no better than the last time you did this thing, then that's the time for me to be more introspective and figure out, okay, why am I not progressing? What is my barrier? Like what's going on? So I'm always looking to do better, always looking to learn a different way to do things. And just, again, just be better at what I'm doing so that I can help more people. And then also just get better as a person, as a nurse, as a mom, all the things. But it's always to me about learning and growing versus am I doing everything 100% correct and 100% perfect? Because we all know there's no such thing. So I really love that Priscilla brought up the sewing analogy, and congratulations on the class. That's very exciting. But yes, I'm a hand sewer, and girl, my stuff looks crazy. So and that's okay. I get better every time, right? That's all that we want.
Yeah, progress over perfectionism. I love that. I like, and just listening to the two of you like talk about that too. Like, I feel like this is also going to help so many other women who are starting to maybe feel pressure to conform or feel pressure to, you know, be a certain way or collect or do things a certain way or follow a certain path. There is no real answer to that. You know, your way is your way, your path is your path. And it's cool that a lot of us in these spaces have similar things that, you know, relate to each other's stories, but really your path is your own. Your path is unique. What may have worked for Priscilla may not work for Danielle. What works for look, I said Cynthia, Lord, where am I going? What works for Cicely, look, I did it again. What works for Cicely does not always work for Priscilla. So it's just understanding like it's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to not know. And it's also okay to keep moving. Like you said, that progress, it's all about the progress that we're making, not about the perfectionism. So that's just beautiful. Thank y'all so much for saying all these wonderful things. We are in our fall fields.
Oh, really? Well, no, the other thing you're saying is like how the other thing is that path that we once were on, like what worked for me before, I mean, it didn't work again. You know, those things may be fleeting, you know, the things that work or what didn't work the first time. Hey, it's working now, you know, which is where I think I'm kind of in that space right now. Right.
And I love that. Right. Yes. Yeah. And then it kind of pays tribute to the whole things like all of your experiences are valued, right? Yeah. What worked, like you said, what didn't work 10 years ago is now working for you. What may have worked, you know, with someone in a certain way is not going to work in this way with this other person. You know, all those type of things, all of these experiences that you've accumulated have value. They may not be valuable in that moment or in that space or place, but they have value. And who's to say when those skill sets or when that moment, you'll be able to pick it off the shelf and use it at any given time. So that's beautiful. Yeah.
It's like finding those you go clean out your closet and go, oh, I forgot all about that.
All right.
Oh, and look, it fits now. And you hold on to those jeans for like 6 years. I'm a fan of this puppy. There he is.
I love it. Okay, so our last topic is nurturing creativity and inspiration. Fall's vibrant colors and cozy atmosphere can spark creativity. In what ways do you nurture creativity and find inspiration during the season? Anybody want to take that one first?
I'm thinking. Got my thinking cap on.
That's cool. And feel free to answer these in the comments, y'all. If you're watching from YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, feel free to give us your answers to these questions as well. Again, in what ways do you nurture creativity and find inspiration during this season? So I know for me, I'm outside. Like, I love crafting. I do a lot of Halloween crafting specifically during the season. So I'm in my element right now. I love creating tombstones. I love creating, faux props. I come from a technical background, theater. So being hands-on when I'm virtually hands-on all the time is a huge win for me during this season. So I just love being able to be purposeful and rooted in that purpose during the season. That's how I stay creative.
Yeah. I get inspired by, I get inspired by lots of things. So I just like let it come to me. It's like stubbing your toe. Oh wait, that's an idea. Or something. But
y'all, I have livable proof there's inspiration because I have like this ongoing feed with Priscilla. She sends me this list of Instagram reels. Y'all, I get like maybe 10 a day. Okay. Ooh, and this, and ooh, and this, and ooh, and this. And I'm like, girl, I see you. You are on fire. I never retract because I want Priscilla to always feel inspired, encouraged. It's one of those things where I'm like, how almost infinite scroll. Like we can go for a couple of days there. But it was awesome. It's cool to see when someone's inspired, they bug you, right? Do you have a plus one that constantly, I don't say constantly, that's not nice. Someone who consistently feels inspired enough to reach out to you and share. I feel like that's so important, especially for creatives. We are in our heads all the time. Yeah. And so the best thing that we can do to get out of our headspace is to include more people. So I'm happy that I get all these messages from Priscilla throughout the day of all these different inspirational reels and jokes and crafts and inspirational shops and all the things, because that really affirms two things. One, I'm not alone and other people are thinking of inspirational, amazing things. And then two, that I can reciprocate that feeling and actually say, yes, green light, go. These are awesome. Ha ha, laugh, all the things.
And I also love it because my memory is not so great. So then sometimes you have that other person that says, hey, what about, oh yeah. Or I go, was it my imagination? Did I dream this? Or was I saying once about this?
That's hilarious. Okay, so I'm also a memory tracker. Thank you. Thank you.
But that's not the number one thing.
Oh goodness.
Couldn't come off of mute. Sorry. I was like, what is happening here? I'm like, I'm laughing. I'm trying to interact. What is going on? It's terrible. I'm kind of like a combination of both of you. Again, like I get inspiration from seeing Danielle do all the things because I love like Halloween, fall, spooky season, turkey season. All of that is literally like my favorite. Liam's an October baby. I've always loved the fall. So I love like, getting on Pinterest, seeing like the reels that come up, seeing the TikToks that come up with fun things. Like me and Ryan are always sharing things on Facebook, like, oh my gosh, we should do this for Halloween. And unfortunately, we're those people who share the things and we never get around to doing them. So we've seen a lot of really good ideas. And I always, admire Danielle's mantles and all the things that she does. But I'm like, I admire from a distance and just, store that back in my little file cabinet of my brain, maybe to use in another couple of years, maybe never, who knows. But just being outside again is kind of one of those things where you get to see the leaves changing. You get to smell people like, burning wood, and it just smells so good and fresh and reminds you of fall and sitting in front of a fireplace. And you think about apple cider and things like that. So being outside really kind of helps me get that feel and then give me inspiration, but also just seeing what other people are doing and seeing how other people express their own version of fall, or, what makes them happy for the season.
I love this, girl. You know me, craft all day long. So I love that. I love that Priscilla does it from a different perspective, like sewing and whatnot, because I I can't commit on that level, but I can commit in constructing all the things. So that's kind of like me and power tools, bring it on. Like I am that person. I definitely love the fact that we talk about creativity, inspiration during the season, like all the things that just surround the autumn feeling, right? Just the woodsy, the cool weather, the smells, the scents, the taste of food. Oktoberfest is happening right now, so we're all trying to find a good craft beer. It's like one of those situations where there's so many elements out there. It's almost kind of overwhelming in some areas. Like, how can we use it? There's so much. There's not a reason to not have creativity in some areas because you can really be inspired by things. And then, of course, there's the more metaphysical and metaphorical ways of things coming to an end so that you can bring new things to life. And I think that's really inspirational for me as a creative, because there are things that I don't need to necessarily have. As you mentioned before, getting rid of things kind of makes you feel really excited and happy because it's stuff that you don't need anymore, right? So I love that transition from from summer to fall, because as things are transitioning its way out, we are making more room for growth in new things. And I think that's very grounding for me and inspirational for me to keep going, keep taking the path less traveled. Any thoughts on that? Okay, so how can creative expression contribute to our sense of worthiness?
Well, I'm gonna have to look at those words. That seems like a lot for me to.
Priscilla.
Expression,
I can't believe it.
contribute. Yeah, those are. Jeez Louise. Yeah, creative expression. How can it contribute to our sense of worthiness? Like, when I think about my worth, when I introduce myself to people, let me just also, like, I think this is a great example of the worthiness part and inspiration. I don't introduce myself as a person who is a mom first. I don't introduce myself as, not even often, as a Black woman first. My rooted direction is I am a creative. That's like what I lean on first. And so when people, that's kind of like my root. So, if I took away all the titles and the strips and the awards and all the other stuff, I go down to I am a creative first. I'm a human creative. Like, that's kind of like my go-to phrase. And I think that's really important. It strips away all the stuff and just reminds me of what is most important to me, which is I value my mind more than anything else. And so that's why I'm able to come out in this like creative sense. Sorry, there's a fly over here. I was like, what? But yeah, that's me. How about y'all?
We're like separated at birth, many years in between. The second twin that like waited a long time before they came back out.
Oh my God, Priscilla.
Whoops.
No, but I'm the same way. I know it's like I was telling my kids the other day, like, she would get upset about math or whatever like that, and I was like, dude, I knew I'm not one to like, I was not good in any of that, really good in any of that stuff, but I've always known that creativity has been my thing that has gotten me through lots of stuff. It helps, like early on it was writing and journaling, and that helped you, purge. I might have to go watch that. I can't watch it because I can't watch scary movies now that I'm a parent. But no, yeah, it's like through the creativity is where I've been able to prove, my sense of worthiness and the expression. The expression, when you're creative and you're sharing the expression, that's showing the world, showing yourself. That's proof and evidence that I do mean something, or I have something to say, or I am, that it's not keeping it inside. And whether or not that's something that I share outside to other people, even me just looking at it myself, it shows that I've got purpose, and that, yes, there is. Yeah, my brain died in a few. Is this coffee still on?
The wheels were buffering. I saw them buffering.
The now loading screen was going and the circle was going.
My mind's internet was a little unstable.
Right. It's the weather. It's the weather.
The connection is bad.
Yep. You're hilarious. I love that. But no, I love what you said about your creativity being something like you can contribute. I think that's one of the things that, like, with creativity, we all three could, for example, sew the same thing, and I guarantee it's going to turn out 3 different ways. And there's only, I can't emulate what Priscilla's doing. Priscilla can't emulate what Danielle's doing. And just all around, like, none of us are we can have the same template, the same colors, the same thread, the same everything, but all 3 of them are going to be completely different. And I think with creativity, that's kind of one of the coolest things. And what I love, one of the things I love about being a parent is getting to nurture that in your own kids, like getting to see them get excited about being able to do something unique. Like, I am the world's worst artist, like absolutely terrible. And like, as a kid, I used to like be so frustrated, like Zoe is with math, because I just wanted to draw. Like, I like drawing. I think it's fun. I wanted to make like pretty art. And I'm like, this is just ugly. Like, I cannot draw. Am I better at drawing? Yes. But like, am I good? Still, no. But one of the things my art teacher would always tell me, she'd be like, well, who are you doing this for? I'm like, well, I have to do it for class, like, obviously. And she's like, well, no, but like, this is not for class. This is for you. She's like, we do this so that you can have a creative outlet, so that you can, provide your interpretation of what this painting looks like, or, let the world know how you see the painting. And then from that point on, I was like, okay, so I'm clearly not competing against the people who are actually really talented at drawing or talented in art. I'm really just showing the world what this Picasso painting looks like to me, or what this Remington painting looks like to me, or what this sculpture looks like to me. So I think that's one of the most important things, is that being creative just allows you to be who you are, like unadulterated, unabridged, like no pretenses, no nothing. Like, this is just who I am. I'm putting it all out there. And Danielle, you crack me up when you're like, I don't introduce myself as a mom or anything else. And I'm like, you know what? I lead with, I'm an Aquarius. That's what I lead with. So that made me laugh. I'm like, okay, well, you don't identify any of those other things, but I lead with being an Aquarius. So people understand from the jump that I am weird and quirky. And there are going to be some things that I say that may sound off the wall, but there is a reason for that.
Oh, I love that. I think that's totally fair. That's what we identify with, right? Like,
right.
If anything, I'm a creative nerd, right? Because that's what I most collect or attracted to. And that's what I most want people to understand about me. That's really good. Leading from places that we want to, be inspired from, right? Mm-hmm. That's really cool. All right, ladies. Well, I think that wrapped up all of our topics for this afternoon. Is there anything else anyone wants to leave? Final thoughts?
No, I just miss doing this.
I miss doing it too. I was just going to say that. I've missed the 3 of us.
Yes. I mean, I've been around, but I've got 2 other little people who are pulling at my attention. And I'm sorry, girls, but they're cuter.
That's okay.
Fair. Totally fair.
Yeah, that's fine.
Otherwise, I'd be doing more FaceTime with you two.
I love this. Well, I hope that everyone in listening range who's been able to watch this from Facebook, from YouTube, from LinkedIn, we thank y'all for y'all's time. I mean, this has been at least about an hour and a half of quality time. I think we've been able to spend really well, unpacking how how we're harvesting self-worth and embracing abundance this fall. For many of you, if you are already following us, we encourage you to at mtgthepodcast.com. You can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, we love your feedback. We love your comments. We love it every time that you heart, that you like, that you share anything that creates value or impact in your lives that we were able to provide from this podcast. So until we meet again, we're reminding you that you are more than the work that you produce. You are more than your name badge, and you are certainly more than graphics. So we'll catch you next time.
And just like that, the episode ends, but the convo has just begun.
Thanks for listening to the MTG podcast.
We want to hear from you. If you enjoyed our podcast, give it a review on your listening app of choice.
Continue to follow us across MTG socials.
And look out for bonus content releases throughout the year. This podcast is produced by Octane Design Studios.
Until next time.